What is up, and welcome to the 2026 Going for Two Rookie Prospects Show. We're doing it a little bit different this year. One, we're doing it live. We've never done it live before, so we're going to do it live. We're also going to be doing them in blocks of five. So we got five rookies to talk about tonight. We have Jeremiyah Love, we got Carnell Tate, we got Jordyn Tyson, Makai Lemon, and Jadarian Price tonight that we're going to be talking about. Of course, I'm here with my co-hosts as always. We got Chu and Ryan. What's up, guys?
Oh man, glad to be back.
Absolutely glad to talk rookies.
Absolutely. All right, so we're just going to jump right into it. Let's go ahead and hit the drop, and then we'll get started. All right, first rookie we're going to talk about is probably the consensus 101 across the board. I guess you can make an argument in Superflex that it's Mendoza, but I think running back Jeremiyah Love from Notre Dame, obviously, I think is the 101, definitely in one quarterback leagues. Ryan, I know he's been talked about a lot throughout the industry, but we're forced to talk about him again. So let's talk about Jeremiyah Love a little bit. What do you think of him?
Man, sheesh, he's freaking good. It's 101 in Superflex. I don't care. He's probably one of the top 3 prospects at the running back position I've ever scouted. He's so complete. He's such a good receiver that PPR alone would make him a top 10 back, but his rushing ability is even better. He's big plays. Dude, he's like a top 3 running back, top 5 running back already for me in Dynasty.
Wow, that's
Like,
pretty praise there.
elite player.
Wow, I love it. What about you, Chu? What are your thoughts on Love?
Yeah, I think he's the perfect running back for right now. Like the only knock I can really attribute to him is, I mean, it's a little bit of a slighter frame, but in today's NFL with his skill set, I mean, tremendously athletic. He's got track speed. He's explosive. But he's elusive. He's handled a workload both on the ground and through the air. So I'm not really concerned of some, durability issues or anything like that. And I think with more wide open offenses nowadays, he's what you want in that home run hitter to get down the field. But he also, like Ryan was saying, like he can catch the ball. He's going to be a PPR nightmare for opposing managers, but for the ones that are actually able to get him at, again, even if you need a quarterback, he's the 101. I don't see how you pick Mendoza over this guy.
Yeah.
It's a small slight to Mendoza, the Heisman winning, college football champion. But I mean, it's Jeremiyah Love is who you want PPR, even non PPR. I mean, he's just going to be a tremendously productive player. And like Ryan said, top 5 at worst, day one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm agree with most of what y'all said there. The track speed is there. That's he's got soft hands. He's got everything you want in a fantasy running back. Great contact balance. And I wrote down on my list of traits here too that it's kind of an NBA term, but he has a bag of moves, right? He's got the spin, he's got the hurdle, he's got the jump cut, he's got really everything you could want in a running back. And I think obviously he will be 101, and I would say 99% of drafts this coming dynasty draft season. You got any negatives, Ryan? Anything that you're worried about with him?
Honestly, as weird as it is to say, probably not. Maybe is a blocker, but who cares? Because he's going to stay on third downs because he is such an elite receiver. You mentioned the frame. I'm not that worried about it, especially in today's NFL. And he's shown year in, year out that he can handle a pretty solid workload and stay on the field. He didn't miss time. So there's not really many negatives. Landing spot, landing on a bad team, but I don't even think that matters because we've seen good running backs overcome it.
For sure. Yeah, I think you mentioned pass pro. That's probably the one knock, and it's not even that's terrible. It's not even terrible. It's he's okay. He's good enough to get by. He can improve a little bit in the NFL, and obviously once he puts some strength training in there, he might even be even better because I think he does have a little bit of a leaner frame. Any red flags for you, Chu? Anything that you're knocking it back for?
No, the frame was really the only one, and again, that's for any of these guys. I at least have more than one negative or weakness or something to work on. his was the one where I was just kind of thinking like, what is the thing that I can't have nothing on here? Everyone has something, and that's kind of how it was landing on that. And that's where it ends up being interesting and figuring out, everyone loves comps and there's never a one to one, but I saw DeMarco Murray in this guy. I mean, DeMarco Murray was a third rounder, but watching DeMarco Murray play out of Oklahoma, like the size, the speed, and everything is tremendously similar. Again, Love is tremendously more, I would say, elusive and as a pass catcher contributes more. But Murray did offer that at Oklahoma. But there's a lot of similarity there, and I think Love could do worse than a DeMarco Murray career, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And Jamie's in the chat. He's upset at the view. Sorry, Jamie. This is going to be the view for a little while, at least for the rookie profiles, because I'll be uploading these to TikTok and YouTube Shorts, the whole nine. It's just an easier format. There is a format, and maybe I'll try it next time to appease Jamie. There is a way I can do both at the same time. I can have the vertical and the horizontal view at the same time. So maybe our next one will do that. But
He's a Browns fan. He can't be a beggar.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Ryan? You got any comps for Jeremiyah Love?
I do, and it's crazy to feel this way. Marshall Faulk. We're kicking it back a little bit. Like, you can build an entire high-powered offense around him because he can do everything. He has elite speed. You said he has a bag running, and one of the most complete backs coming out of college in a long time.
Yeah, for sure. I like that comp as well. And I have on my comps, usually I try to avoid current NFL players. But I think he's at the end of his career, I can use him. But he's a faster Alvin Kamara. I think he has, some of that obviously pass catching ability. I think he's a better runner than Alvin Kamara was. I think Alvin Kamara still has not had a 1,000-yard season in the NFL. I think Jeremiyah Love will have that in his rookie year. But as far as a pass catcher and in that, I think he's very similar to Alvin Kamara, just obviously with the track speed that Kamara doesn't have. All right, let's move into our next rookie. We are going to be talking about wide receiver Carnell Tate. He's 6'3", 195 pounds, out of Ohio State. I'll start with you, Chu. What are your thoughts on Carnell Tate?
Well, I mean, Ohio State went ahead and made another first-round wide receiver, so who would have guessed that was going to happen? And it's just the only concerns I have with him is, he's a bigger guy. He doesn't win with speed, but I like these guys that win in ways. Again, he's not so sluggish that it's just a real problem, but he's tremendously savvy in and out of his routes. He is taller and a bit lean. I mean, he's not even 200 pounds at 6'3", but I think that it's still not going to be a tremendous problem for him in terms of, again, how he navigates routes, how he navigates around coverage to get open. Best or second best hands in this class. Another guy that we'll talk about here is the other one or two there. But I mean, a guy like him, he can work mostly in the outside, but I mean, be a tremendous red zone threat and just a friend to the cornerback, someone who can be aware of where he is on the field, but be aware of how he needs to help. And I think that he's going to be a tremendous number two wherever he goes. And that's not a slight. He's going to be one of the best number twos, I think, pretty quickly.
Yeah, I like that. You mentioned his hands, and another thing that I put down that, talking about he doesn't have the breakaway speed, but he can catch the ball in traffic. And I think he's going to be doing that a lot in the NFL. So I think that's one of the good things for him as well. And then high point in the ball too. Like, I saw him, contested to catches just left and right. He seems to always go up and get it. So I do think that's another one of his strengths. What about you, Ryan? What do you see from Carnell Tate?
Uh, high pointing ball is a big one. I think he attacks backwards too, so he comes back to the ball and always puts his body in front of people. He uses it very well, even though he said he's a little skinnier. I think he uses what he has well. He has really good sideline awareness, able to keep his feet in. He has good ball tracking. I think he wins really well on posts and vertical routes when he can leverage his size. And I think he's a smooth runner. I don't think like very explosive, but I think he can outstride people once he gets a little bit of a head of steam going.
Yeah, I agree. I think, we mentioned that he doesn't have the blazing speed. But I think he's going to be fast enough. Combine obviously is this weekend, so we'll see how fast he runs the 40 time. But I do think that he has enough speed to be a really good receiver in the NFL. I did see a little bit of struggling versus press man, probably a little bit related to the size. He can get pushed around a little bit at the line, so something he can work on at the next level. Nothing that's going to really kill him, I think, too badly. They can find different ways to get him open if he struggles getting off the line. So those are the only things that I had as a negative. Did you have any red flags for him too? Anything negative you wanted to mention?
No, I mean nothing that we haven't said. I mean, I think when you talk about lacking like the uh, explosive speed and acceleration, whether it's off the line dealing with press, whether it's creating yards after the catch, those can be issues. But again, that doesn't mean that people with that kind of profile cannot contribute in fantasy immediately. What he does well, he does tremendously well, and his role and his type of receiver is prevalent in the NFL. So there will be no problem there.
Yeah, I agree. We'll do comps next, and I'll kind of give my comps, and I'm just gonna do Devontae's. I'm comping him to Devontae Smith slash Devontae Adams. He's a little bit bigger than Devontae Smith, and I think Devontae Adams. What really kind of gave me the Devontae Adams vibe is I saw a lot of sideline catches for Carnell Tate in his highlights, and that's one of Devontae Adams' like staples in his game where he can just find a way to get his feet down right before he's out of the bounds, and that's something I saw from Carnell Tate as well. He doesn't quite have the Tate does not quite have the route running ability as Devontae Adams, so it's not quite to his level. But I did see a little bit of a mixture. He's a little bit bigger than Devonta Smith as well. I think Smith came out at like 170, but I think similar frame, just a little bit bigger. So I think those are my two comps there: Devontae Adams and Devonta Smith. A little bit of a mix of them. What about you, Ryan? What are your comps for Carnell
Um,
Tate?
yeah, the route running things was not really like because we didn't get to my negatives. That was one of my things. I think he's a little limited there. I just wanted to bring that up. I was there. I have Sidney Rice. I think he's a really good player paired with somebody either as a wide receiver 2 or 1B. I think he's the guy who stretches the outside, and he may not be a superstar, but he can put up a 1,300-yard season and have some high touchdown rates and like live in that 900 to 1,200 zone.
Yeah, I like it.
Like I don't think he's ever going to be a 140 target guy, but 110, 120 and still make an impact. That's where I see him.
Yeah, agreed. What about you, Chu? What do you have for a comp?
Well, another tremendous number 2 in Roddy White. I mean, he was back of the first round out of UAB, but I mean, formed a pretty tremendous tandem with Julio Jones for a couple of years there in Atlanta. So I really just think that I think the initial mocks are kind of saying it could be Giants, what have you. So I think a lot of where they're comping him to, it's going to end up being something where he is the number 2, but he creates an elite tandem with whoever he's going to be paired with. And I think teams would be wise to consider that. I mean, there's some pretty good receivers at the top of this class, but I think he has a special place for a number of these teams that maybe already have a pretty established receiver there.
Yeah, I like it. Ryan, did I already ask you for your comps?
Yeah, I said Sidney Rice.
Sidney Rice, that's right. That's right. And of course, I already gave you my comps. So let's go ahead and jump into our next receiver here. Jordyn Tyson from Arizona State, 6'2", 200-pound receiver. And we'll go to you first this time, Ryan. Give me your thoughts on Jordyn Tyson.
I feel like I'm a little lower than most. I still like him. I think he plays really well above the rim for his size. I think he's really good at finding holes in zone, moving the chain. He really wins like on those in-breaking routes. Uh, there were some drop issues in like concentration drops coming through. I thought he would get overpowered on like when guys broke up the hands and were able to rip the ball out of his hands on some balls where he should have been able to hold on to it with his size and strength. And I thought there was occasions he lost some speed at the top of his breaks on deep routes, but there's still a lot to like, and I think he can be a very good wide receiver for a team.
Yeah, I think the first thing I wrote down on my list here was elite route runner. I think just watching him create separation was just fun to watch. And you mentioned the contested catch rate. One of my things in my research, I didn't realize that he is the brother of Jalen Tyson, who plays in the NBA. So the hops are there for sure. It runs in the family. So obviously he's got excellent ball tracking skills as well. And another thing I noticed too, he can line up anywhere. He's not going to be relegated to the outside or the inside. He's going to be able to line up anywhere on the field. So those are my pluses on Jordyn Tyson. What about you, Chew?
Yeah, I mean, he's my favorite, top receiver in this class. I feel like he checks so many boxes in terms of what you want for a a dominant receiver, kind of leading your team in the NFL today. And it's the snappy route running, and it's not. I feel like there's some that they get attributed to running great routes, and it's kind of a lot of like just show and nothing, things that maybe aren't going to be quite as effective at the next level. And I feel like that's not necessarily the case with him. He's a tremendous route runner. He has a bag of tricks. If Jeremiah Love has it in the backfield, Tyson has it in and out of his routes, and it's none of it's a waste. It's to get separation, which he's so consistently good at, and he has the size to where he's creating the separation, and he's got length without it being necessarily like a hindrance, have it being like a taller, lankier, being pushed off the ball kind of receiver, which can happen at times. But I think overall, he can work anywhere on the field, whether it be where he's lined up or at any level of the field, making a play. And I think he had kind of displayed a little bit more this past season, getting some yards after the catch. So he's a very complete receiver who, injury concerns. I understand that, but I feel like each of the different couple injuries I don't think really connect to where I'm tremendously concerned right now with him going to the NFL that any one of them are gonna be a huge hindrance to him producing, unless it's a freak thing that happens again.
Right. Yeah, I think one was a collarbone, I believe. So yeah, that's something that can happen to any NFL player. It's no like reoccurring situation there. But yeah, some of the negatives y'all mentioned I had on my list as well. He struggles with drops. He's got average speed, not great speed, and the injury concerns were some of the things that I wrote down. Did you have any other red flags, Ryan?
I would have liked to see more out of his yak. Like, for how good of a router he is, he's not super explosive once he gets the ball in his hands and went down quickly there. I would have liked to see a little more on that end.
Yeah. Anything else that you didn't already mention, Chew, for negatives?
No, that all set on that one.
All right, go ahead and give us your comp for Jordyn Tyson here.
So I went with I guess probably another receiver in the Roddy White time, and that was Jeremy Maclin. He was a middle first rounder out of Mizzou. He was a little more utilized everywhere in Mizzou. I think even as a returner and everything, he was that offense there. But with Tyson, I think seeing a similar kind of build and skill set, and I do think that maybe if some people thought Jeremy Maclin maybe didn't achieve ultimately what a lot thought he was going to the NFL, even still what he ended up doing was still pretty tremendous. And I do think that, he showed even for a brief time, he was tremendously effective, even in a bit of an up and down career. But, I do think that Tyson can be a clear cut first rounder, can lead a wide receiver room in the NFL. And I think any real system would be happy to have him.
Yeah, I like it. Ryan, what you got for your comp?
Um, I I'm fully on board with that Jimmy Macklin one. I like that one a lot. Like I think it describes it very well. I had Terry McLaurin. I think it's a fairly similar game. Like I think he can be a wide receiver one. I don't think he's a superstar, but I think that's in his realm of possibilities. I like the Macklin one probably more, for to be honest.
Yeah, the Macklin one's definitely a good call there. I like that comp as well. I wrote down Stephon Diggs as my comp. The route running, he doesn't overwhelm you with the speed, but he's good at contested catches, good ball tracking skills. I think he looks a little bit like Stephon Diggs when he's out there. All right, let's round out the three receivers we have tonight. Talk about Makai Lemon, 5'11", 195 from USC. And Ryan, we'll go to you this time. Give me your thoughts on Makai Lemon.
He's my favorite receiver in the group. I I, I loved watching him play. I think he's electric with the ball in his hands. He's a big play waiting to happen. He snatches the ball out of the air. I think he has elite hands. He catches everything. He plays extremely aggressive for being a little bit smaller. I think he's also elite route runner. Um, I like that he was used on returns too. Couple issues. I don't know if he can play the outside in the NFL. He might be a slot only. It's not as big of an issue as it used to be, but that's an issue. And I think there's some size concerns. Other thing I had on here is that I really like is he's not afraid to take contact. It's probably one of my favorite things is he will catch the ball, no regard for his body, and come down with it. And he wins those plays where he's getting hit. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's a good call. I like that. What about you, Chew?
Well, anyone on Twitter who has seen where I have him ranked amongst the receivers doesn't want to listen to me at this point if you like him, because I don't dislike him by any means. He is amongst the top receivers in this class. It's abundantly clear. He produced. He's a highlight reel. Again, I think you can envision any number of his him plucking the ball out of the air. Again, like Ryan was saying, him taking immense contact, and it looks even better considering his smaller frame. But he's able to grab the ball, hold onto it, and just take absolute abuse. But again, also being one in a line of many tremendously productive receivers out of USC. I mean, like I said with Tate, I mean, if Tate doesn't have the best hands in this class, it's Lemon. No doubt about that, which is funny considering how different of receivers they are. But that's clearly what they hang their hat on. And while I am concerned with Lemon being a slot only, because I do think that's probably what he'll be relegated to, I do like that he can navigate zone coverage tremendously well. And I think that's going to be what he has to hang his hat on if he's going to be slot only, to be able to be utilized often enough to be just at worst a PPR nightmare. Because if he's at least able to get those catches, and again, we saw him be able to create after the catch too, but defenses in the NFL are a little more swarming than in college, so could have more of an issue at the NFL level. But I like his contested catch, his body control, but I am concerned with the size as well. And while I do love the highlight catches and everything like that, with his size and his Mike Williams disregard for his body, I don't know what that's going to mean for longevity if he really goes to push it to that level. I do have him after Tyson, Tate, and actually Denzel Boston.
Wow.
And that might just sound like a size hate as the smallest guy in that group, but I think there's just some concerns of like how much he can be utilized and how much he can be unleashed. But again, today's NFL, there's not dumb offensive coordinators. There's a lot of tremendously smart guys that know what they need to do. So he lands in a great spot. I'll look like an idiot, and you have a video about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one of the things I had down as a negative that you kind of touched on a little bit that I think will help him is his release package, which if he does line up in the slot, he won't need quite as often because it's a lot harder to do man, press man in the slot. So that'll help him a little bit. Elite hands, you both mentioned elite hands. I think he's credited with 3 drops total in his career, which is pretty amazing. So everything else y'all kind of talked about already. He's got great ball tracking. The contested catch thing is ridiculous for someone who's 5'11". He just goes up and gets it. He's just a beast at that. Let's go ahead and do comps here. Chew, what do you got for your comp?
So I had Doug Baldwin. Again, it's not lost to me that Doug Baldwin was undrafted. That is not indicative of what I think of Lemon. I think it's ultimately what Baldwin did with his career of being, in his worst seasons, tremendously productive. And at his peak, I think it was probably like a 2, maybe 3-year period towards the end, being part of a very good offense there in Seattle. So, I mean, I think he's someone who, if we're looking at some people who were maybe a bit smaller, but again, just dependable hands, just gritty, can navigate zones well, that kind of stuff. I thought that's one where if his floor, again, because I usually like to do 2 comps to kind of pick the floor and the ceiling, that Doug Baldwin is certainly not a ceiling. I see Doug Baldwin as his floor. But I've heard a lot of the ceiling ones of, he could be Amon-Ra, that kind of stuff. I really don't love picking superstars at the position that were drafted within the last 5 years. It feels like a recency thing. And I'm like, I like to not do that. Although, I mean, if he turns into the next Amon-Ra St. Brown, then again, I look like an idiot.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely seen that comp quite often. I did the same thing too. I try to find a different comp because of the reasons you mentioned. The superstar that's currently playing in the NFL, it's hard to because then people expect him to be that player, and if they're not, then it's it's a little bit tough. What about you, Ryan? What do you got for a comp for Makai Lemon?
So I have a current player who, like, if we're staying away from that younger thing, I'll avoid. I think he has some Steve Smith Jr. in him. He's a little bit bigger, but like that just fearless play, that speed, just whenever he has the ball in the hands, you kind of hold your breath and you don't know what's gonna happen. And he has that dog in him like that. So that's
Yeah,
where I'm at with him. I was gonna say he has a little bit of Zay Flowers in him with the
yeah,
shiftiness.
mhm,
And if he could do that with Zay Flowers turned into a decent outside receiver and worked on it a little bit, I think it could happen. But I like him as the C Smith thing, and
it's funny that
God
you
bless if he
said
could be.
You said Steve Smith, and I thought about doing Steve Smith, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I could put him in that class just yet. So I went with Golden Tate, similar to Steve Smith. I think Steve Smith is a little bit nastier than Tate was. Tate was more a little bit flashy, but I think we kind of hit the nail on the head there with the position that we kind of you take Amon Ra, you take Steve Smith, you take Doug Baldwin. You take Golden Tate, all these guys, you kind of mash them all together, and I think that's what you get with Makai Lemon. He's kind of in that role there. So definitely a good role to have in fantasy because he could be a PPR monster and get tons of targets. He could be the 140 target guy that Ryan talked about earlier. So yeah, I like him
He,
a lot.
him and PPR feels like a match made in heaven. Like
Agreed.
I think he's a
Mhm.
PPR. He might be top 10 PPR scoring and like 15 in overall. Like
Agreed.
you can kind of see that.
All right, we're going to round it out tonight with a running back. We're going to stay in the same backfield that we talked about at the top of the show. We're going to go with Jadarian Price from Notre Dame at 5'11", 209 pounds. And Ryan, we'll start with you this time. Give me your thoughts on Price.
I think Price is a really solid running back. I think he runs incredibly hard. He gets north quick. He has some wiggle to him. He's fairly creative as a runner. He wasn't involved in the passing game. For being bigger, he was able to bounce outside. I don't know if he'll be able to do it as easily in the NFL, but he's a very like solid back. Like I think he's a two down back and could get 200 plus carries. Like there's a lot to like there, and he'll find his way on a team and committee NFL anyways.
Yeah, fair. And one thing that I kind of, it kind of jumped out at me too when I first put him on is, and I'm curious to see how he does in the combine, but he's a lot faster than I would have thought.
Yeah,
I think I've heard him, they've guessed that he can run a 4.4, which, for a guy his size is pretty impressive. And, he has that home run ability. So,
yeah.
I
I bet he runs like low 4.5s, high 4.4s, like 4.48 to 5.5, like or 4.54 range,
yeah,
like somewhere around there. I think he lives there.
agreed. What about you, Chu? What do you see when you watch Jadarian Price?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tremendously powerful runner. It's someone who I think, like we were talking, he does play tremendously fast considering his size and everything and his build. So I think what kind of probably helps with that is there's not much hesitancy to his running style. Again, the north south, but again, there is some wiggle to where he's able to navigate the lanes well. But I think he's a very decisive runner when it comes to he understands he doesn't have the Jeremiyah Love explosivity, that kind of thing. So he's got to be pretty decisive with the hole he takes, and he's got to hit it hard and fast, which he does tremendously well. It is interesting, just his lack of opportunities. And again, I know the big thing is, oh, well, he'd be the RB1 in any other team in college football, and I'm not saying that isn't true, but it's just really tough to try and project that when we haven't seen that. It's not the same as, we've had in the last couple of years, we've had guys that, you have the receiver behind or the running back behind the superstar. And usually it's they didn't do as much. And then they let the guy goes to the draft. And then he gets at least that 1 year to elevate and be the guy that was behind Bijan, the guy that's behind whoever. Like you at least get a year of that. We didn't get that at all.
Mm-mm.
And it doesn't help that he hasn't really contributed in the receiving game. So we're looking at a kind of a limited skill set and a limited sample size. But I mean, I feel like in what is ultimately a kind of a down running back class, it doesn't feel, it's a big teardrop to go from Love to anyone else in this class, but I do think it's pretty clear cut. It is Price is the second running back here. And it's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, he's going to contribute in the NFL. He's probably going to be a second round guy, but that's where a lot of tremendous running backs have gone.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have a lot of same things that y'all had on my list here. Runs through contact, very physical, has elite contact balance. He does have the speed that we talked about. A couple of negatives that I had, like you just mentioned, his limited sample size. We just don't have a big enough sample size. I think he caught 15 total passes his entire college career, which can he catch passes? We don't really know yet because he wasn't asked to do it much in college. So that could be a knock.
All those passes are like dump offs too.
Exactly.
He wasn't running routes down the field like we see with Love.
Exactly. Sometimes running backs come in the NFL and they don't do that, and then they end up doing it in the NFL. I think Kenneth Walker comes to mind. Kenneth Walker didn't have a lot of catches in college and came to the NFL, and he's not like a Marshall Faulk or anything, but he's still catching plenty of passes. So it can definitely happen. He's just not asked to do it a lot, so it's hard to really compare him to anybody if he's not doing it.
What worries me about that whole statement you just made is Ken Walker came from an offense where the running back wasn't involved in the passing game. Jadarian Price is.
Right. That is a very good point for sure. All right, let's do our comps here. I think I'll go last here because I think my comp is going to be hated, but we'll go to you first, Ryan.
So it's funny. He plays bigger than his size, and it kind of threw me off when I was like making comps. And the player I originally had, I'm like, I'm gonna look because he's another one who played a lot bigger than his size, and I think was a good 2-down back was Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. I think he's
the law firm.
Yeah, the
law firm. I think he gives you that nice, solid between the 20s game and can pound it in the red end zone. Like he's gonna be a threat in the short yardage. He runs hard. He's always gonna go forward. And if he gets the attempts and carries, he's gonna have huge games. But it needs to be the right team. Like if he goes to a team that wins football games and they're playing with a lead, he's a great closer. And I think he'll be a very good player like that.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Chu? What do you got for your comp?
I like that one. I love a good mention of the law firm.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'd probably have to go. I've seen a lot of. Well, I won't say it because this might be Jeff's, but Pierre Thomas is the one that I kind of gravitated towards. And I would say a faster Pierre Thomas, but again, stylistically, and I think this would be his ceiling. And Pierre Thomas was undrafted out of Illinois, so I don't mean he's going to be an undrafted talent. I mean, he will be drafted, second round, probably early third round, worst case. But I do think that, Pierre Thomas did create a decent receiving skill set in the NFL, and it helped in the offense that he was playing in, but nothing tremendous or outlandish. And I do think that that's what Jadarian Price, when he has the current skill set that he has, if we're trying to expand that out to a bigger role, add a receiving skill set, even if it's dump offs, but very well, as a flow of the offense and able to get upfield quickly and churn out yardage with that. So I do think that that's a reasonable one. And again, Pierre Thomas was pretty productive, especially for 2 or 3 seasons of very good fantasy production. So I think if that's something that he can turn his career into, then that wouldn't be bad at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So the one that I have that I thought everybody might hate because he was very highly touted coming out of college and was drafted high in the Dynasty drafts, and he didn't have a terrible career, but he didn't do what we hoped he would do. But I'm competent to a faster Sony Michel, a north-south guy. He hits the hole. If the hole's not there, he might be in trouble. But if the hole's there, he can fly through it. So I think he reminds me a little bit of Sony Michel in that regard. Now, if he comes out and he's a great pass catcher or even a dump off pass catcher, then he'll be even better than Sony Michel. But from what I saw on tape, I think he reminds me a little bit of Sony Michel.
Funny, I was gonna go with that, but I actually like Price, and I wasn't, and I was such a Michelle hater coming out. I just couldn't do it. I don't like stylistically. I like that, but he has a little bit more it factor for me. But like I like that comp for him a lot. I just hated Sony Michelle.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
You hating Sony Michelle.
Well, that's the funny thing about whenever it's like picking comps too. It's like, all right, we're thinking about like not the bad taste that it left in our mouths of like how Sony Michelle ended up. It's more of like, well, what was his general skill set, and not you say the name and you're just like, I hate you so much. Why did you say that man's name in the same breath as Jadarian Price?
Yeah, absolutely.
I hated him out of the draft. I hated him out of the draft too.
Yeah,
like as a prospect, I was out.
Yeah, Ryan was definitely out on Sony Michelle. I do remember that. All right, fellas, that wraps up our 5 rookies for tonight. We'll go real quick. Give us your Twitter handle real quick, and then we'll get out of here. We'll go to you first, Ryan.
Find me here. Find me over at the Rookie Big Board, Twitter, Foss534.
All right, and Chew?
On Twitter at Father Dynasty and FatherDynasty.com, which is where I've got the Faux Football Substack.
All right, and of course you can follow me at Jeff Lambert77 on Twitter. And for next time for Jamie, I'll make sure that we record horizontal and vertical just for you, Jamie. For Chew, for Ryan, I'm Jeff. We'll see y'all next time.